third person's POV. The crowd were gathered in the gymnasium because the arena was still under investigation after it destroyed by the hooligans. Severus was sitting next to his Gamma and Beta. Gregor was also there, sitting peacefully, and he was with his own Gamma and Beta. He kept on wearing his smile as he greeted all the people that entered the gymnasium gate. The famous personnels were also there. They were here to witness the new king. All of them were wealthy who owned properties, and one of them was Mr. Vermont. Meanwhile, the king was sitting seriously between the two. He was waiting for the new successor of his throne. The king did not show any favor during the campaign because he knew that the goddess would send good king for all the werewolves. The gymnasium filled with people who were willing to witness the result. The king stood and made some pleasantries to make some introduction. The people felt a little bit of excitement while the other felt sad when they knew that there would be a new king. And today, we will meet our new successor king. Let's meet him in 1, 2, 3. The king shouted in joy and he started to toss the ball of the voters. Severus looked at the king as he saw from his peripheral vision that his opponent grinning at him secretly. He shook his head, but he did not feel any anger toward Gregor because he kept on looking for the scent that he smelled last night. "Prince, did you find him?" Leo asked as he kept his eyes at the crowd. "No. His smell is out of here. I don't know, but I can sense his familiarity. Even his smell is not present. Maybe he hiding his smell to watch my steps. I really don't know if he is our enemy or not," Severus muttered so no one would know what they were talking about. "Don't worry, Prince. Elias is now ordering the guards to tighten the security. He also ordered them to trace the smell that we sensed last night," Leo whispered, and he leaned again on the chair. "Thank you. Just focus on our goal. We need to know the identity of that man. For sure he have a reason why he acting strange. He is good in hiding, so be alert always," Severus whispered, and Leo tapped Severus's shoulder. "By the grace and the one that choose by our goddess, our new king is not other than." The crowd were all waiting for the announcement. They were kept on shouting the name of the person they want the most. All of them were wishing for the victory of their king. Severus could not deny the nervous that he felt at that moment. Meanwhile, Gregor sat firmly, seeming like he was sure for his victory. He glanced at Severus and gave him a brief smile. "King Severus Abram of the Crimson Blood Pack," the king shouted, and the entire gymnasium were filled very happy hearing the result. Clap. 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 Long live new king. Long live for King Severus. Long live. All of them give a round of applause except to those who wanted Gregor as their king. They raised their eyebrows, proving their disapproval for the result. But because Severus was their new king, they need to be polite and give respect to the result. They stayed still until Severus took the succession ceremony. Severus stood wondering how he won. He knew that he did not show great for the campaign, but how could it be happen? But because this was also his dream, he happily took the chance to help here. The king shook hand with his son. He was so proud that Severus inherited the position of being a king. He knew that Gregor put all his efforts for the position, and Severus was so lucky to win against him. "Son, my king. I really proud of you." King give him a warm hug. He tapped Severus's back when their body met. "Thank you, father. This is my privilege to become your successor. Everything I have for now is because of you and Hirre. Thank you for supporting me." Severus thanked his father. Hope that goddess will guide you, King Severus. Previous King Ansel said, and he departed from Severus. Severus went to the middle of the stage and he pronounced the oath of being a king after Ansel passed it to him. Everyone was happy except Gregor, who could not accepted the result. But he acted like he was still okay, and after Severus received the throne, Gregor stepped closer to Severus and greeted him. He congratulated Severus for winning the position. "Congrats, King Severus. May goddess guide you." Gregor smiled as he shook hand with Severus. "Thank you, Gregor. Actually, I never expected this victory," Severus replied with a smile. He looked at Gregor carefully and he saw something behind Gregor's shirt that located on his right chest. What happened to you? Why did you have that fresh scar?" Severus asked. Gregor looked at the direction where Severus talking about. This is because of my hard training. It is shallow, so don't have to worry," Gregor said, and he swiped his shirt. "Ah. That's good. Train hard, mister." "Gregor," Severus replied, and he let Gregor to say his final goodbye. "Anyway, I have something to do. Once again, congrats," Gregor uttered, and he stepped back before he left the area without looking back. "I will find out your real identity, Gregor. I know that you have something fishy that's still on your chest box," Severus thought as he followed Gregor by his eyesight. "King. Congrats. Long live to you." Severus looked back as he heard the familiar voice calling him. And when he looked back, he was stunned as he saw the one who approaching. "Is this real? How can it be?" Severus muttered as he kept on waiting the person to get closer. Third-person POV. ARGH. "Why that bastard win against me?" Gregor shouted as he came back home. All of the people were busy. He was drinking alcohol alone. In the dark side of his mansion, his eyes glared furiously. His eyes were red as he grinned his teeth in anger. "I will never let this world ruin by them. I will be on top of this world. I will be on the top of the chain," he growled as he poured another glass of champagne. "Icarus," he called his gamma, and his voice echoed around the massive room. "I'm here, Alpha Gregor. What do you need?" Icarus asked as he quickly went toward his master. "Tell to our hunters and armies to spread nightmare this coming night. Everywhere. Kill those who will interfere our plan," Gregor shouted, but Icarus was still standing. Thud. The glass of wine scattered on the floor when Gregor threw it badly. "Why you are not moving, idiot? Go and do whatever I want," Gregor shouted angrily, but his gamma stayed calm and polite. "Pardon. But what if the new king know that you are the reason why the small packs are destroyed? What will we do? He is now powerful and he can order everyone to vanish our pack." Icarus replied, worrying about their pack. "You fucker. We have many assets and I already made a plan. I prepared this moment, win or loss. The nightmare will be happen." Gregor shouted, and his evil reaction suddenly turned as a horrible laughter. "Boo-wah-ha-ha-ha." Icarus nodded his head and he went to the dean where the numbers of men were waiting. They were injecting something on their body and their appearance turned horrible. "Men. Prepared yourself for our attack this night. Destroy everything and ruin their celebration. Show no mercy and kill anyone who interfere us," Icarus shouted, and the entire room were filled with horrible laughter. "Don't worry. We will pleasure our alpha," the hunter leader said, and his troop laughed wildly. "Make sure that the assets will give us support. Go to them and tell them our plan. And deliver them our product as soon as possible." Icarus uttered, and he went to the another dean to tell the other groups what was Gregor's plan. and everyone were having fun after hearing their target place. They were looked like a flies that searching for the lights. They were all craving for the lives of the other. Before the moon shone brightly, Gregor's army pack were already prepared themselves. All of them could not accept that Severus won, even they did everything to make their Alpha won. They paid media to broadcast the good things that Gregor did. At that night, they went to the wealthy family to get some support of their attack. They brought the product that able to strengthen their muscles and ability to fight without being tired. They were really prepared, but they make sure that there was more surprised that they would prepared if Severus knew that Gregor was the mastermind of all evil. Long live our king! The musical instrument filled the entire Crisman Bloodhouse pack. All of them were happily greeted the king for his victory. But even the entire place were filled with happiness. Severus was still looking for someone. He scanned the area, but even the area were filled with lights. Severus did not mind how happy this night because Hirre was still not there. Yes, he felt happy when he saw Alejandro was okay with Andrasi. Even Alejandro was really glad seeing them this morning, but the only person that made him feel better was Hirre. King Severus, why Hirre is not here? Where is she? Alejandro asked as he looked around. Severus forget that Alejandro have no idea where was Hirre. I'm so sorry, but if you did not know, Hirre went to the Holoxian tribe to train magic. She was still there, and I'm sure she will be happy if she know that I won against Gregor. Severus said, and Alejandro knitted his eyebrows hearing that from Severus. Is she alone? What if her life get in danger? Alejandro asked, but Severus tapped his shoulder and replied. You don't have to worry, Alejandro. She is okay there because she was the real granddaughter of the Holoxian head chief. Severus replied, but Alejandro was not satisfied. Even if she is still alone and she needs someone to be with there. It's pretty dangerous there. Alejandro said, worrying about Hirre. Severus did not speak again since he knew that Alejandro lost his wolf because of witchcraft, and until now, his wolf was still not present to his body. I know how you care about her. But I put my trust to her. For sure, she will protect herself for our dream. I wish that she was here seeing me in this situation, making our first step toward the dream world that we all wish to have. To think that he would last 3 hours with that bitch. He really felt good and satisfied. That bitch was really great. Which was why he didn't stop fucking her even when she finally passed out. Wearing his undershirt like nothing had happened, Janus then tied his necktie to him. Looking at the mirror in front of him, he couldn't help but let out a bright smile. What a handsome human being I am, Janus muttered to himself, shaking his head slowly like he couldn't believe it at all. Well, he truly was handsome. His eyebrows were dark and thicker than average people, making him look attractive and appealing. Adding the small scar on his right eyebrow, he even looked more manly and charming, but at the same time, savage. Putting that aside, his deep green eyes, which looked like an emerald gem shining in the deep, also looked so attractive that they could stun most girls with just a glance. His chin and jaws were as though chiseled like a fine craft, as his lips and smile could as though melt the very soul of any woman. On top of that, he also looked strong with his well-built body. For men, he looked scary and threatening. But for ladies, he looked awesome and hot. He also had this strange aura exuding naturally from him, making anyone feel like they were inferior beings. Here's POV. Miss here, I think you have a great improvement as you make your first step here. And I see how your ability really show how great is your bloodline. We elders decided to give you the chances to learn the magic. And I want to ask you, what magic you want to learn? The witch leader said, and I really surprised after hearing that. I did not know what magic I need, but I thought that it's better to have an ability to summon and made a medicine to help our world. Leader Mawari, I think I made up my mind. I replied, but I did not speak it directly to her. And she gave me freedom to take rest. Actually, I did not know the things that happening outside the place. Even I knew that it was the last day of the campaign. And after another hard training, I went to my room wearing the clothes that the young girl gave to me. It really made me feel thought who was the real owner of this clothes. I miss my mate. I think Mawari will let me to go to our world. I thought since I almost made a perfect magic trick for almost 2 weeks that was here. Here. Mawari called you. My deep thought was suddenly interrupted as I heard someone calling me in the outside. And when I opened the door, I saw the guardian of the leader standing outside. I will go after you, I said, and I followed them through the cabin in the middle of the woods. Greeting to you, Leader Mawari. As I know, you called me? What is your intent? I said politely. Because I decided to give you a time to go back to your world. I will send my guardians to guide you until you reach the boundary. Mawari said, and I really felt that I'm floating in the cloud 9 as I heard her saying that. Is that true? I widened my eyes as I asked again. I saw her smiling and the white surrounding covered us for a moment. Here is the way toward your world. I'm hoping that you will be successful. I will pray to your goddess to help you whatever you takes. Mawari blessed me and I felt happy, giving me a hope to become my protector. Don't worry. I will do my best. But please, let me know what I need to improve before I go. I asked and she tapped my shoulder twice. Nothing. Because your ability is really increasing itself. But please be careful using the magic, because even we are good in using that, our body can crash if we forced ourselves. I nodded my head after noting every words she said. I knew that it was really hard to control magic, but I will do my best to become a better witch. I understand it, Leader Mawari. Thank you for this opportunity. Don't worry, if we succeed, I will come back here to unite our world again. I promised and she happily agreed with that. Okay, go and be safe. I will entrust everything to you. This is the way out, and be safe. The leader pointed out the way and I saw 4 guardians walking with me. They were walking with nonchalant expression and I thought that they were like walking statue. After a while, the white surrounding turned into a field. I looked around and I happily recalled the place. It was the place where the gate was located to reach the other world. But after a while, I heard a cold voice saying, "Pronounce this and you will reach the first destination you want to go." Thank you, I replied, and I pronounced the spell after him as I closed my eyes. Lagusane Buksan. I had a Dako Super Arunan. Anyon Na. And when I opened my eyes, I clearly heard the sound that made my heart beat fast. I went closer and when I looked back, the guardians were not there. Only trees and unfamiliar personalities were there. This is the Crimson Blood Pack. Does it mean Severus is here? If I'm right. I want to see him. Third-person POV. The beat of the music heard again. And like what happened before, The crowd were happily drinking wine around the event. They were happily talking about Severus's victory and all of them were his supporters. Meanwhile, Hirre was walking toward the event. She was wearing the same clothes as before as she finally reached the entrance. She looked around and the crowd staring at her as she passed by. Is she the Vermont heir? Why she wearing that kind of clothes in King's celebration? One rich woman. The muttering of the people were not escape from Hirre's ears. But she did not mind them. Only she knew was King Ansel have celebration. She walked away and the pleasing aura faced her as she sensed Severus. Hirre. The voice of a man called her and when she looked around, she saw Mr. Vermont happily greeted her. "Grandpa. I miss you so much," Hirre happily said and she embraced him tightly. "Why are you here? What is the event here?" she asked wondering as she looked at her grandpa, empty-minded. "Before I answer that, I think you need to take some bath. You smell stingy, sweetie." Mr. Vermont said, smiling at his own joke but seemed like Hirre did not enjoy that kind of words as she frowned her lips. "Grandpa. You are so annoying," Hirre said and she followed her grandpa toward the another room. Mr. Vermont have his own maid and he own a good fashioned clothes and even he did not know when Hirre would come. He already called his maids to prepare Hirre's clothes for this event. And even Hirre did not have any idea why people were gathered, she let her grandpa to do whatever he planned. They entered in the massive room and Hirre really amazed at the new arrival clothes. "Grandpa, is this all your design?" Hirre asked as she touched the finest dress that she see from her entire life. "Yes. But all of this is all yours. You will choose one if this expensive dress this night," Mr. Vermont said and Hirre was really confused about the real happening. Hirre scanned the area and she saw lots of finest dress hung on the wall. All of them were created by the famous designer and it cost a lot of praise. Hirre walked in the middle of the room and from the last row of clothes, the gloomy dark silk dress caught her attention. She walked slowly, staring at the sparkled beauty of the dress. It really enchanted her and it became beautiful as she saw it closely. "Do you like that?" her grandpa asked her and she nodded her head as agreement. "If you don't ask, that dress is designed by your grandmother. Fortunately, it became her masterpiece and not even wore for her lifetime. And because I want to make her happy, I hired good clothes maker to create it," Mr. Vermont said as he wore a bittersweet smile. "I like that, Grandpa. I want to wear that this night," Hirre happily uttered and she let the maid to ge the dress for her. And when she touched it, she felt happiness inside her. "Anyway, sweetheart, what happened to your training? I'm so sorry if I did not ask for it recently, but I want to ask you that," her grandpa said as he held Hirre's hand. "Grandpa. Now I know that they are not our enemy but the one who named Trainer. He is the reason why they decided to hide. However, when they tried to live peacefully, that man spread nightmare and they blamed the witches for that," Hirre said seriously and the smile on her face turned blue. "And now you know that, you need to find that man. We need to stop his bad doing as soon as possible. But for now, you need to change because the event is still going," Mr. Vermont said. "Okay, Grandpa. Don't worry." Hirre stepped away from his grandpa and she took the direction toward the dressing room. After 20 minutes, Hirre was escorting by her grandpa toward the event. Every steps she made become lighter as she reached the main ball. The people praised her beauty as she wore the most beautiful design in fashion industry. Many of them give them way as she walked, and Severus' smell become sharper as she halted her stepped in the middle. "Grandpa, is this the event of the new king?" she asked, wondering as she kept on scanning the area. Because she was really empty-minded about the things that happened around, even the victory of Severus was out of her mind. "You will see it, Mr. Vermont uttered, and they continued their way toward the stage. And finally, Hirre saw Severus sitting on the throne that the king used before. "Is this true? I can't believe this," Hirre muttered, and she kept her eyes at Severus, who was busy talking with Elias and Leo. "Severus. Congrats." She mind-linked Severus, who immediately turned around to see where was Hirre. His eyes were searching as he scanned the area. But because the area were filled with crowd that celebrating victory with him, he could not see the exact location of Hirre, but the excitement could not hide in his eyes. "Where are you? I want to see you here. I can't see you in this numbers of people. Please don't do this to me. I really miss you," Severus replied as he looked around. "Look around then. You will be amazed," Hirre said, and Severus happily followed what his mate said. Severus slowly looked around. And when he turned around, he felt something get into his shoulder. And he felt surprised seeing a moth flapping its wings on his shoulder. "It's beautiful, right?" Hirre said, and Severus knew that that voice were coming from Hirre. "Hirre?" Severus thought, and how amazement he felt as he saw Hirre standing beautifully. Her tantalizing eyes smile as she looked at her mate with passion. Hirre's POV. "His smell really make me feels good. I wanted to fasten my steps to reach his location. His face looked like a masterpiece of God. He was a living Adonis that perfectly graven by God's hands. I really missed him as time we separated for a few days. And that was one of my biggest struggle that could not let me fell sleep peacefully. I do always thinking about the things that he did, especially the campaign. I knew that he did not make a good campaign to help me from the hooligans. And I hoped that people would notice how he helped our world for peace. I stepped more until I finally reached the stage. I called his attention and I saw how he excitedly looked around to meet me once again. I contacted him and I summoned a moth to catch his attention. His smile was great present for my homecoming. He stood and took his steps toward me and I suddenly heard my grandfather whispered on my ear. "Go and congratulate him. Be polite to our new king." The voice of my grandfather made me feel surprised. I could not imagine that he would gain victory despite of all challenge that we encountered. I almost in tears seeing my mate near the position he deserved to be. I wanted to embrace him tightly and kissed him in front of this people. I halted my steps as he laid his hand to me. His smile awakened my dead souls and my heart beats again uncontrollably. I wanted to feel his heat and his warmth melted my heart. The wild beast inside me tamed as he looked at me sincerely. "My future Luna. I'm so happy seeing you here," King Severus said, and he held my hand sweetly. I could not speak as he guided me toward the stage. All of the people in the area give us way and honored the new king toward the stages. My hands kept on shaking because I never thought that it would happen. "Why are you shaking?" he asked me, and I stared at him for a moment. My eyes were still in this confusion. I can't imagine that you won against Gregor," I said, trembling in my voice, but he kept his hand in me tightly. And before I stepped into the stage, I looked back and I saw my grandfather cheering me from the distance. "Here. Can we talk later?" I wanted to ask you more. Severus muttered, and I nodded my head while I kept my eyes at my grandfather, wearing a sweet smile. Okay. I will. Actually, I never expected all of this. I'm so proud of you. My king. I said, and I felt the redness of my cheeks as I pronounced his new position. Nah. All if this is because of you, Hirre. If you did not help me, I'm nothing. Severus humbly said. That made me feel shy. And to bend our topic, I continued my steps toward his gamma and beta. Hirre. You are so beautiful. Anyway, how long have you been here? You did not notice us, Elias said as he met Severus and I. Actually, it is unexpected. I never thought that I will be here because I have a great training left in the Holoxian tribe. And how awesome since I am here, witnessing the victory of your Alpha. I replied, and Elias smiled as he looked at Severus. Take a sit, Ms. Hirre. Leo came and he gave me a seat. I smiled at him, and when I glanced at the other side of the area, I saw Alejandro with Andrasi. I kept my eyes at Alejandro, and I felt pity for him when I remembered that he lost his wolf because of witchcraft. If witchcraft is the reason why his wolf is gone, maybe it will also be a key to summon his wolf. I thought deeply, and I suddenly felt Severus' hand tapping my back. What's wrong? Why you suddenly become taciturn? Do you want some drinks? Food? Or what? Severus whispered, offering me some sort of choices. Thank you, but I'm still full. Anyway, can I spare your time? I said as I looked at him, who now sitting behind me. Yeah. What is that? He quickly said, and I did not waste my time for this precious night. Here's POV. Did you know now the real enemy? I asked him secretly. He looked around as he stood after pulling my hand gently away from the main stages. He looked at me meaningfully as we went to the back door. Why? I asked him as we reached the main door. He opened it, and I was surprised for the next scenario. He pinned me on the wall and he stepped closer to me. I missed this moment. The moment that his hand touched mine, and how warm was his hand. Even his breath was warm as he spoke in my front. Hillary. I missed you so much. He whispered, and I already felt the goosebumps that invading my entire body. His breath was intoxicating, and I missed that from him. What are we doing here? I asked him, but before I spoke again, he grabbed my waist and our face get closer to each other. Seeming like there was invisible glue that stuck on our eyes because it really stuck in each other. And like what I thought, his lips touched mine. But I did not want to have this very intimate situation because all I want was to know the real enemy. Unexpectedly, he quickly scoured his tongue inside me. I felt the warmth of his saliva that wet my lips and dry throat. I could not move very well. Seeing him, a strange but alluring scent pulled me back to reality. For a moment, I felt my dead heart starting to beat again. It was an inexplicable feeling, similar to that of a withering flower being sprinkled with sweet water. He touched my thigh tightly and squeezed it harshly. I wanted to push him away, but the alluring aura of him let me stood like a statue. I let him kiss me while I let his tongue sipping again my mouth. His moan was sound sweet, and it made mine ease lost its strength. The hardness of his bat was felt when he moved near me. It rubbed on my lower abdomen and it made me felt shiver. What is he planning to do? I asked myself as I kept myself calmed while he kept on doing that little shaky thing. Here. Severus whispered, and I could not resit my feelings toward him. He departed from me and I finally felt the presence that I'm craving for. Sev. Stop that. See, can we continue it later? I said, because I have lot of things that wanted to ask him. But I miss you. Severus stuttered, pouting his lips. He looked cute, but it doesn't matter for this moment. I put my hands on his chest and tried to push him away to me. But he just stared at me and say, "This is King's order. Miss Hillary." I was a little stunned as he say that. And who I am to disobey the King's order? I did not move and I smile a little after a moment of pause. I looked at the both end of his eyes and nodded my head. He smirked and it made me feel annoyed. How could this man used his position to give him my precious kiss this night? Okay. My Majesty. I whispered and he pointed my forehead as he smiled at me. He quickly scoured his tongue again in me and I did not let my guard down. Our tongues seemed like fencing inside as we felt the heat of our embrace. After a while, we finally reached the end of this pleasure. I smile as we still hugged each other. Say, King Severus. I'm happy seeing you again. I stuttered as I said. Me too, here. But I never thought that you will be here. Because I thought that you need to stay there for a month. Severus stated, and I stepped forward to sit down on the chair. I don't know why the clan's leader set me free. As long as I know, I fight her and she granted me an visitation in this world. I replied, which made Severus to knit his eyebrow, standing in my front. Does it mean that you gain too much power, that's why you can fight the leader? Because according to the history of the Holoxian tribe, only trained people that can fight the leader is those have a high possibility that they gain magical power easily. Severus explained, and I thought that he was right because no one dare to put their fingers on leaders' clothes. I think I have the true nature of magical power. That's why I can enchant you. I uttered while giving him my wild personality. Sigh. Are you trying to seduce me, lady? He grinned and it really gives some butterflies in my stomach. He was such a naughty boy. And to remove the lustful topic between us, I asked him again. Nah. Speaking of which, did you find Claire? Severus shook his head and I was a little worried about her safety. Since, losing yourself in the midst of that place was such a nightmare for those who did not have any power. Severus POV. Gregor. I growled as I saw his face. I never thought that a person like him was the real mastermind for attacking my knight. Yes, I suspected him a moment ago, but I never thought that I would be right in guessing. He was really have a rotten personality. Yes, I am. And I'm her to get the right position that I belong to. Gregor uttered while his both hands were inside his pocket. His appearance was like a mafia boss because of his black suit and the numbers of guards behind him. After hearing him, I felt that he was now getting into my nerve. I stepped closer next to the wall where the alarm signal was attached. I secretly pressed it and the roaring sound alarmed my armies outside. You bullshit. Gregor was angrily shouted at me, accompanied by the sudden change of his appearance. He turned into a massive black wolf with a very broad body. I really put in shocked seeing his wolf for the first time. But when I looked at him directly, I was pretty sure that I met him before. However, it was not too clear for me to recognize when and where I saw him. After a moment of pause, I readied myself and I don't have any option but to form as my wolf since they were now surrounded me. Suddenly, I heard some heavy footsteps coming toward me. And before I transform, a huge ash-gray wolf jumped toward me. I was stunned for the sudden appearance of this shit. Thud. But before the wolf get closer, a great sound interrupted us when my armies came to fight the wolves. "King?" Elias shouted, but I did not put much care at him. I did not get off my eyes at Gregor, who was planning to escape. "Get lost, bastard," I muttered as I totally transformed as my wolf. Gregor jumped from the window as the moment that he saw me with my wolf. The broken glasses scattered around the hallway when he used it as his escape room. I ran faster as I could to chase him, but before I reached the window, the numbers of enemies blocked my way. "Where do you think you are going?" the cyan wolf asked me, gritting his teeth at me. "I don't want to fight you. But I think it's a right time to give you a lesson," I retorted, and I quickly jumped from my location. I opened my mouth and my fangs directly went to his neck. The great blood spurt from his neck and I immediately swayed. It took off from his body. The wolves around me were stunned as they saw their comrade laying on the floor headless. "Next," I said with nonchalant expression as I transform again as my human body. The wolves were looking at each other as they planned to attack me. But I did not let my guard down. Gamma Elias came and he managed to attack the wolves. He darted behind me and his heavy steps put surprise to the enemies. At that moment, I used that to chase Gregor from the outside. "Elias, I will entrust you this fight." I mind-link him before I ran toward the direction where Gregor ran to. The surrounding was too dim, but thank for the bright moon because I could still see the path. I darted from tree to another while sensing the smell of Gregor's wolf. I reached the middle of the woods far from my pack house, but I still heard the growl of the enemies who was killed and attacked by my armies. I halted my movement for a while since I could not sense Gregor at this moment. But I was pretty sure that even hid himself, his identity was now doomed. He could not erase the fate that I knew him at last. And no matter where was his Dean, I will find his location to pay the loss that he brought for my people. "Where is he?" I muttered as I looked around, hoping that his rotten smell would be sent from nowhere. "Whoosh!" Suddenly, while I'm sitting on the top of the tree, I heard a sound of the wind passed by. I cleared my eyes and sharpened my ears. And while I was watching from the top, I smelled the familiar scent. What is she doing here? I slapped my forehead as I saw her running fastly. She looked like chasing someone from her movement. I thought that she was a great hunter. I immediately jumped to catch her, but I was really become statue as I saw her with a familiar guy. Is she betraying me at this moment? I asked myself as I kept on watching them in the distance. Panned. The tiny beads of sweat were flowed down to her temple. Here ran even her dress touched the ground. She just holding the skirt with her hand as she kept on running for something. Because after Severus left her in the room, she smelled the rotten blood of the enemies. Here looked at the window and she saw the numbers of wolves waiting in the outside. They looked like a predators waiting for their prey. And when Severus was not attended, she managed to find the way out. But the pack house was surrounded by the high fence of glass window. She looked around but she noticed that it was too hard to get out. I think I need to use my witchcraft to make a way out of here. Here thought as she saw the thickness of the wall. She summoned a heavy object around her. Lumitanka Mesa. A heavy oak table was elevated and it stayed in the mid of the room before Hirre controlled it to destroy the glass window repeatedly. Thud. And from the last stroke of the table on the wall, a big crack was created. "This it is," she muttered in herself, and she quickly darted on the floor toward the wall. And the glass scattered a rune as she successfully landed on the ground. Her dress was still fine as she kept on running toward the group of wolves. "Hey fuckers. Why in this earth you visit the king's pack?" Hirre asked the wolves, who was surprised in her sudden appearance. Hirre stood firmly, and she let the wolves recognize her. Is there anyone who want to talk?" Hirre asked, making a fuss out of the enemies. "How dare you little piece of meat to come over here without any comrade? Do you want to feel the taste of death?" A huge wolf appeared with its deep voice. "It sound crazy," Hirre replied calmly as she gave a cold smile at the wolf. "Grrr. This woman needs some lesson. Attack her and pull her tongue out." The wolves shouted angrily, gritted his teeth in anger. But Hirre did not show any fear and she let the wolves attack her. The heavy steps were heard and the snapping sound of their teeth made the dark forest horrible. However, Hirre crossed her arms in the front of her chest, seemed like she ate worry about the huge sizes of the wolves that might tear her flesh apart. "Show her no mercy," the wolf added, and the enemies ran fast toward the same. Their heavy and sharp nails on their feet were pointed at the location where Hirre was. Some of them ran straight while the others jumped toward Hirre. "Freeze." But before they reached the closer distance, they were all stayed in their position. They were stunned as they noticed that they could not move from their place. Hirre Monreal Vermont. The wolf recently widened his eyes as he recognized Hirre's identity. He was shivering in his position as he saw his armies stuck in the mid-aid. There were something like a invisible glue that attached on their body that prevent them from moving. They were like a living statue that meant to become a displayed. "You witch bastard!" the wolf angrily growled at Hirre. "Do you want to be like them?" Hirre asked the wolf, who was not shivering his knees in anger. "Sigh. I thought you are brave, but why you look so pale? Don't worry, I will never hurt you if you will tell me who is the root of this malicious attack," she added as she walked gracefully in the middle of the frozen wolves. "How dare you to threaten me like an idiot, you son of witch?" the wolf angrily retorted, which made Hirre to chuckle. "Hi. I never thought that there is a talkative man like you. Anyway, the pushover like you is not the kind of person I want to talk you. So if I decided to pull your tongue out, I can do that. So if you will shut your mouth, and only important thing will appear on it, maybe I can spare you a life," Hirre seriously said as she glared at the wolf. "Grrr. Only a snap of teeth," was the answer that Hirre received from the wolf. And she slowly walked toward him and she used her witchcraft to shut the mouth of the wolf. "You have a bad breath, little puppy. Close it for a while, okay?" Hirre used her fingers to tame the wolf as she closed its mouth. But even the wolf wanted to move. There looked like a glue that attached on his mouth. He wanted to growl and fight Hirre, but he could not believe that his body slowly followed what Hirre wanted to do. Thud. Thud. Suddenly, Hirre's eyebrows knitted as she smelled something. The sound was coming toward her. The sound was getting closer and closer, and she left the wolf stuck on the ground and she waited the intruder wolf, Gregor, panting his breath as he reached the deep of the woods. He was running fast as he could to reach the location of his armies, who was now stuck on the ground because of Hirre's witchcraft. "Roxas. Give me the injector," he shouted, but only the woods and the deafening cold night heard him. "Where the fuck they go?" he added as he ground his teeth in anger. He walked around, sensing his comrade when Hirre came with her nonchalant expression. "You are Alpha Gregor, right? What are you doing here?" Hirre asked while she was standing on the flat surface of a rock. Gregor was surprised as he looked back and saw Hirre standing. Hillary. Hillary Vermont, right? Gregor responded, stuttering because he knew that Hirre was the heir of the Vermont. "Yeah. So why are you here, Mr. Gregor?" Hirre asked again, and it made Gregor to smile bitterly. "Why are you asking me that such thing? Is there any problem if I'm here? And if there was a problem, so why are you here?" Gregor retorted as he replied, giving Hirre a malicious look. "Alpha, why you are so hot-blooded this night? Anyway, I'm here for some reason," Hirre said as she smiled briefly. Gregor knitted his eyebrows after hearing Hirre's words. "So it's not my business. I have something to deal with," Gregor replied coldly, and he turned around to make his first step away from Hirre. "Take care, Alpha. There were a group of wolves there. They are not too easy to deal with," Hirre shouted, and it made Gregor to halt his steps. His eyes get widened, but he did not show any. "Shit. Is she encountered my guards?" Gregor asked himself, and he continued his steps away. When Hirre saw Gregor was gone, Severus came from the top of the tree a few moments later. "Who was that guy here?" Severus asked as he landed on the ground. "Severus, what are you doing here?" Hirre asked Severus as she was surprised seeing her mate in her front. "Don't swah the topic. What are you doing here with the enemy?" Severus retorted as he glared at Hirre. "Enemy? Does you mean that Gregor is the enemy?" Hirre asked, wondering. She never thought that she almost caught the enemy. "So that man is Gregor? Where did he go? We need to chase him," Severus said, and Hirre was really put in shocked. But the man named Trainer is our real enemy. And it really impossible that that weakling is the root of all evil. Gregor is a mere person that easy to defeat. How it could be happen?" Hirre asked, wondering. This is not the right time to think about that here, because Gregor and Trainer are the same. They are just disguised as a weak one so we cannot notice their action. But for sure, their weak attack are just a part of their trick, Severus said, and Hirre suddenly thought about her mate's words. "So if you are right, I think we need to let them escape. Because I feel that Gregor are just using himself to be a bait. So if you chase him, he have a great plan for that. Maybe there is something that he prepared along our way, so we need to ensure our safety. Let them to escape and wait them to attack us first." Severus was stunned as he heard how witty was Hirre. He nodded his head and let the time flies. "You are right here. We need to let our guard up and wait their troop to attack us. Let's go. We need to ask the survivor enemy to know where are their dean." Severus held Hirre's hand and they ran again back to their home. From afar, they saw the numbers of rouges that waited them. "Are they still our enemies?" Hirre asked as she saw the rouges snapping their teeth. "I don't know," Severus replied while he did not let his guard down. Hirre held Severus' hand and whispered, "Don't worry. I can handle them." Severus shook his head and he stepped forward. "Stay behind me here. Don't be stubborn," Severus retorted, but when he steps forward, the rouges bowed their head touched on the ground. Hirre and Severus were all surprised seeing the rouges giving them respect. "Long live to the new king." Severus knitted his eyebrows as he heard someone greeting him. And when he looked directly to the source of the sound, he was surprised as he saw Sion behind the pack of rouges. "Sion? What are you doing here? How is the event? Is there anyone get hurt?" Severus asked continuously. Meanwhile, Gamma Elias and Beta Leo appeared and they halted their steps next to the rouges. "King Severus, the event is still ongoing. The enemies were unsuccessfully entered the main venue because all the trackers are blocked. So no one get hurt except some of our armies that fight against the wolves of Gregor." Gamma Elias responded, and it made Severus to take a deep breath. Sigh. That's a relief. Severus sighed as he heard the good news. "Anyway, why are you here, Sion?" Severus added. "King Severus. If you don't ask, Sion is the one who helped us to trace and block the devices on the event," Leo replied, and Severus was really surprised. "Sion. Thank you for your help. We really appreciate your good deed." Hirre spoke behind Severus, and Sion was stunned as he saw Hirre. "Hirre? Where is Claire?" Sion asked as he looked around. Hirre's face turned gloom as a lonely night. "I am so sorry, Sion. But Claire was escaped when we reached the Holoxian tribe, and until now, we still empty-minded. Where did she go?" Hirre replied, and Sion suddenly turned serious hearing that. "I think she chose to live her life alone," Sion added, and he shook his head. Severus and Hirre looked at each other, and they decided to go back to the event because many people wanted to see them together. "I think we need to go back to the main event. See you later," Severus said, and the armies bowed their head as their agreement. Severus guided Hirre toward the gate, but when they were about to enter, Sion spoke, which made the two to look back. When Sion saw that the two halted their steps, he ran toward them and whispered, "Severus. Here. We need to talk something important later." Severus knitted his eyebrows and he stared at Sion as he replied, "Okay, see you in the king's office at 11 p.m. Sion nodded his head and the two continued walking. "Severus. What do you think does he wanted to say?" Hirre asked as they walked through the hallway. "I don't know. But I feel that it's all about the enemies that attack us recently," Severus replied seriously. There was no trace of fear in the tone of his voice. "Sigh. No matter what, we need to know Gregor's next step, because if I was right that he was Trainer, we are all facing the great enemy. We seemed like facing the unleashed beast of the decades," Hirre replied as she took a deep breath. "Don't worry. I already prepared the armies and I already seek the assets to gain full support to prevent their troop to come over this world," Severus said, and he opened the door toward the main event. "I'll be here, Severus. Don't worry." Hirre smiled sweetly. Severus just nodded his head and they entered the main ball. "Hirre. What's now?" Andrasi immediately approached with Alejandro. "We fix it properly. Anyway, did you caught the person who placed the devices here?" Hirre asked, but Andrasi shook her head. "But we sent some of Sion's hacker to trace the information of its owner," Alejandro replied, and Hirre looked at him meaningfully. "Why?" Alejandro was stuttering as he spoke as he saw Hirre looking at him. "Is there any problem?" he added as he swept his face, thinking that there was a dirt on his face. "And nothing. I just can't believe that I will still see you standing here without enduring too much pain like before." Hirre replied as she gave a sweet smile at Alejandro. Kiki. Same as you. But I was very thankful because I have someone like you who helped me in my critical situation, although we both know that I hurt you before. Alejandro replied calmly. It's just a part of we so-called destiny. And goddess know that thing is now just a memory that we need to keep as something like a old hearsay. Hirre replied, and she averted her gaze away from Alejandro. Suddenly, a warm hand touched her shoulder. And when she looked back, a familiar face was burst upon her front. "Oh, Ken. I'm so happy seeing you here." Hirre was very happy seeing Ken, her cousin. She quickly embraced him, and it made Severus to have some creased on his forehead as he knitted his eyebrows violently. "Me too. Did you know that your business is now getting bigger and we gained too much profit for almost a year?" Ken said happily, and Hirre was surprised hearing that good news. "I was so lucky to have a business partner like you. Don't worry. I will tell to our grandfather to give you a share to one of my business." Hirre replied, and she gave Ken a wide smile. "Don't have to do that here. Actually, all of my hard work are already paid by our grandpa, and those businesses are all yours. So don't worry." Ken proudly added, and Hirre took a deep breath as she heard that. "Okay. But if you want to have some share, just tell it and I will grant it as my present for your hard work." Hirre uttered, and Ken nodded his head. Yeah, I will. And even it was still too far, I will be thankful for that opportunity," Ken replied as he heard how kind Hirre was. Meanwhile, Severus and his Gamma and Beta were silently standing on the other side of the room while Alejandro and Andrasi waited the other four to go to the main ball to meet all the visitors. "Are you done? Previous King Ansel and Mr. Vermont are waiting for you. We need to hurry to let them know the things that happened lately," Severus interrupted Hirre and Ken. He was seriously held Hirre's hand and he took some steps. "Let's go," Severus whispered, and Hirre was shocked toward King's attitude. "What's wrong with you?" she asked angrily as they reached the corner of the room. "I don't have time to tell you what is wrong. Ask yourself and you will understand," Severus seriously retorted, but Hirre could not get what Severus wanted to say. "Are you crazy? I asking you, but you are just acting like that," Hirre answered, rolling her eyes at Severus. "I'm not crazy. You ain't just a apathetic woman who did not care about someone's feeling," Severus added, and he faced Hirre. His eyes were burning in anger, but Hirre saw the beast that jealous about something. "Are you jealous with Ken? But he was my cousin, so you don't have to feel that way," she calmly said, but Severus averted his eyes away from Hirre and turned around. "Next time, be aware and know your limit. It's not all about Ken. It's all about Alejandro. So stop doing that same shit," Severus said before he left Hirre to meet the VIP visitors. Hirre shook her head. She could not believe that Severus would feel jealous. Sigh. He is out of his mind, she thought, and she went to her grandfather who have some chit-chat with previous King Ansel. "Hi Grandpa. Good eve Mr. Abram." Hirre greeted the two as she reached their location. "Oh honey. You here? And where us Severus? Mr. Vermont asked as he wandered his eyes to look for the king. "He is not with me Grandpa. He have some business with the VIP visitors," Hirre replied to sway her grandpa's attention. "Anyway, how is the enemies? Did you defeated them or are they now surrendered?" Mr. Vermont asked again, and Hirre shook her head. "No. Some of them killed and many of them are escape. And I think, Severus conclude that Alpha Gregor is the mastermind of all chaos. But we still have no evidence of that conclusion since the person named Trainer Balthazar is the real devil-doer. Hirre replied, and the previous king was stunned after hearing Hirre. Actually, Gregor's real identity is still the missing piece. His personal data are uncleared and there are some malicious data that we gathered. But for almost a year, his career becomes successful and lost of the people support him. And when I analyze his background again, I was really amazed because of his good background. So I was too confused if he was the enemy that you are talking about. Ansel stated, and it become a pain in the ass when he heard that. It's already 10 at the night when the event was ended. The VIP visitors were gone home and the pack house's ballroom was filled with empty chairs and tables. Hirre was walking alone toward the king's office after she received a mind link from Severus. She was calmly made her steps but her heart palpitate badly. She thought about the conversation she had with Mr. Abram and Mr. Vermont. If Mr. Abram tell the truth, maybe there is a big chance that Gregor is the real enemy. I think I need to meet Sion as soon as possible so I will know the information that he may give to us. Hirre asked herself, and as she continued walking. After a while, she reached the king's office. The security guard opened the door and the massive room faced her as she entered. Severus was sitting there seriously and the atmosphere became thick as she continued her steps toward the empty chair. The deafening silence embraced the entire room. Hirre stayed silent and her eyes were focused only at her hand. She took her phone and tried to call Andrasi when the door was opened. "You are not too late, Sion," Severus seriously said, which made Sion to scratch her nape. "I'm so sorry for making you wait. But I think, if you know what I have this night, you will thanks to me," Sion proudly replied, and he sat next to Hirre. He immediately took his laptop and set up the projector. What is he trying to do? Hirre asked herself as she kept on watching Sion. She did not give Severus a look since they have some argument recently. But in her peripheral vision, she saw how Severus stole some glance at her. "Now, I will present to you the things that my troop gathered." Sion suddenly spoke and it made the other two to look at Sion, who presenting something in the front. The numbers of the people who were listed on the screen were appeared and Severus knitted his eyebrows violently. "What is that?" he asked, wondering. "This the data of the wealthy family that turned their back to you, King Severus. They are the assets that Gregor used to make his evil plan successfully," Sion answered seriously. "But we already defeated him, right? Severus won the campaign and now we killed some of his men. So how could that wealthy families afford to help them if Gregor don't have to show up?" Hirre asked confusingly. "Because they are not running for money and business. They are used the assets to deliver the drugs that they use to stay strong. They are now building the large amount of people who used injectable drugs. Some of them are those we encountered, but they have the strongest men that's still on their dean," Sion stated, and Hirre and Severus were both shocked as they heard that. "So you mean that Gregor have a plan that will be burst any time?" Hirre asked, and her eyes were filled with worry toward the people that would be lost their life if Gregor executed his plan. "For now, we just hacked their main account, but for sure, if his group notice that we block their system, they will conduct the terror night that we afraid to happen." Sion spoke again, showing the locations that might be damaged. "Sion, I need your help. Please tell to your group to be alert anytime. We need to destroy their deed, do their will, deprive their strength to move freely. Severus said, and he seriously looked at Hirre. We need to end their bad deeds because after the coronation, I plan to have a great event that will mark in everyone. Hirre's heart bears fast. She did not know what Severus was talked about, but it clearly made her to feel something romantic feeling inside her. But you need to be careful, Severus. The enemies are not sleeping. They will find a hole to enter, so please tighten the security and make sure that no one will disobey your rule. Sion suggested, and Severus nodded his head. You are right. And from now on, I will declare the mandatory training. Severus seriously stated, and Hirre was really amazed on the new plan of the king. 3 weeks later, the people walked around like there were no trace of danger that might threaten their life. The children played as normal, and every corner have a group of kids and teenagers who were trained by the elders. Because after Sion hacked the system of the enemies, they become aware to the things that might happen anytime. Severus as a new king declared the mandatory training for the children above 7 years old. They were trained to become a good fighter. And like what they expected, Gregor's groups did not show up for a whole 3 weeks. In the Holoxian tribe. And from the peaceful day of the werewolves' world, Hirre went back to the Holoxian to let them know that she was decided to use the witchcraft for the sake of their people. She was been crowned as the new chief, and everyone become happy seeing Hirre inherited the position of the witch leader. She become a good leader and she give equal rights. But some of the witches used to stay on their home since they were accustomed to live there. Hirre tried to convince her people in the witch world, but they were refused the good offer of their leader. And Hirre did not push herself since the witches wanted to have their own life, which not depend on the wealth of the werewolves people. Sorry Hillary, but we think that our life is now depend here. But our support will be on you always. So don't worry about us. You are now our head chief and our loyalty will be in your hands. Our wish is your safety, and may the soul of the elders bless your journey. The previous leader said, and she give Hirre her bless. Hirre kneeled on the round stone and waited for the elders to surround her. Sumayo angkapon yari han ingating man ananu. Pagpalan kanilasil yang mangalalakaran. Taklayan mo ang kanalang pogang at honggang silyang muling pagdating. The elders recited their bless before they poured the aromatic oil on Hirre's palm. Hirre felt the comfort as she felt the warmth of the oil. And when she get up, her body seemed like a brilliant stone as it glows for a second. Ang pagpapala ing ating ninuno a nasa iyo na. The previous leader smiled and she suddenly surrounded by the white sheets. And like as before, when she opened her eyes, she saw the familiar face looking at her. She quickly moved and she found herself lying on her bed. Am I dreaming? She asked herself as she buried her face with her palm. Hirre, are you going to sit there? Or you will get up to prepare yourself? The familiar voice made her consciousness to get back. She removed her hand on her face and she saw Severus standing next to her bed. Have you been here long before? Hirre widened her eyes as she remembered how ugly she was when she was sleeping deeply. It's not your business. Get up or else I will send you downstairs. Severus said, and Hirre felt annoyed. She looked around and her gaze threw at the outside. She saw the busy people gathering in the massive land area. Shit. She muttered as she remembered that today was the coronation day of Severus, since the position of the crown was still in previous King Ansel. And this coming full moon, the crown would be given to his only son, Severus. Hirre rubbed her eyes and she got up while Severus was still staring at her. "Can you please stop staring at me like that? Don't watch me like a kid." Hirre twitched her eyebrows violently as she shouted. But instead Severus moved out. He steps closer to Hirre and he put his right knee on the bed, staring at Hirre closer and closer. "You look so beautiful here. I can't take my eyes over you," Severus said while wearing a tantalizing eyes, and Hirre felt the fine hair over her body that's standing upright. She wanted to push him away but her body could not. She felt something strange that her body craving for. And it was Severus's smell. "What are you doing, Severus? Are you crazy?" Hirre asked as she heard how damn attractive was Severus in talking about her beauty. She still knitted her eyebrows as she glared at her mate. Suddenly, Severus' white teeth showed as he grinned. He pointed Hirre's forehead with his index finger and said, "Even you are beast today, I will tame you later." After saying that, Severus walked away and he left Hirre speechless. Only the shutting door was heard when Severus closed the door. "What the? Is he going to make me feel this kind of shit? I thought that he would kiss me. Or he will brought me in heaven again. But what the earth he trying to do? He just left me without." Sigh. Hirre sighed deeply as she clenched the sheet tightly. She could not move on from the handsome face of her maid who woke her up. But while she recalling that thing, she remembered that Severus and her was. Inhale. Exhale. "I need to freshen up myself," she muttered again and she stood to prepare. "Here. I sense something. But I'm not sure if I was right. But I think, Severus is now out of his mind." Harsha spoke within Hirre. "TCK. I thought that you may sense something important." Hirre replied, lowering her voice in sadness. "Why are you suddenly become sad? Is there something bothering you?" Harsha asked again and Hirre took another deep sigh. "I think Severus is now changing. It's almost a week since we don't have any good conversation and I thinking about the wrong thing I did to make him angry all this time." Hirre replied. "TCK. Is there anyone who will greeted you as a beautiful woman if he was angry?" Harsha answered and it gave Hirre a thought that her wolf was right. So if he is not angry, maybe he just busy with his responsibilities as a new king, especially. The enemies are still making their moves. Harsha added and Hirre was turned taciturn after hearing that. "You are right. Maybe it is the reason behind," Hirre said and she continued what she doing. She quickly went to the bathroom to fix herself. Her mind was filled with questions and she could not focus on what she doing. Suddenly, she heard someone knocking at the door. She walked toward it and her maid shone up carrying a large box. "Miss Hillary, this the dress that your grandfather delivered to you. He told me that delivered this so you can wear this later," the maid said politely. "Oh, thank you," Hirre replied and she took the box from the maid while wearing a smile. And when the maid left, she put the box on her bed to take a look on it. "How lucky I have to like a grandpa like him," she muttered as she took off the seal. "Whoa. What a beautiful dress. I have never seen this kind of dress before. Where did my grandpa get this?" she asked wondering as she saw how beautiful was the dress. She immediately took it and the real beauty of the dress as she saw it much closer. It was an ivory silk white backless dress that surrounded with fine brilliant stones. The beads looked like a stars in the sky when the darkness arise. And aside from the dress, there was a pair of silver shoes with 3 inches heels which located on the other side of the box. It looked fancy and expensive, from its design and how this kind masterpiece was been made. The designer was looked like a hair splitter because of this rare design of a shoes. Her eyes could not averted from the two object. Her hands could not stop touching its gloomy stones. Suddenly, her moment was been interrupted when Harsha suddenly spoke. "Oh my God! I want to wear them right now," Harsha excitedly said. "You know, having Grandpa is a real blessing. Look, he always provided you everything," she added, and Hirre wore a smile. "You are right, Harsha. I never thought that I will experience all of these things. Through the things that I experience from Alejandro's pack before, for sure, no one will believe that I survived from the criticism of the people," Hirre replied while her hands still playing the beads on the surface of the cloth. Suddenly, her fingers grabbed something from the very bottom of the box. And when she looked for it, she saw a folder paper. "Can you be with me?" She read aloud the letter graven on the wooden paper. And when she opened it, the artificial butterflies flew and she was surprised. But even the butterflies looked cute. She was still confused about the next words that the letter wanted to say. She flipped the paper to know if there was a continuation of the letter, but even she looked for it, she failed. "Harsha, who do you think will give this to me?" Hirre asked as she looked the entire paper. She was wondering, since her grandpa did not give that kind of paper on her, since the paper was really looked like a rare wooden paper. "It blooms like a new bloom flowers in the midsummer. Don't assume here. Maybe that letter was with the dress and shoes that your grandpa give to you. It's part of the things," Harsha replied, and Hirre shrugged her shoulder. "Maybe you are right. Anyway, I will wear this since the coronation night will be held," Hirre added as she looked at the clock that hanged on the wall. It was already 6 in the afternoon and the lights around the pack house were enlightened. Actually, not only the coronation night will be held tonight, but also the awaited gathering night for the teenagers to meet their mate for the first time. Because of that, everyone were enjoyed for this coming night. "Okay. Make yourself as the most beautiful woman this night," Harsha replied, and Hirre brought down the paper and took the dress. After a while, she already wore the dress and it was exactly fitted her. Her beauty was exposed and even herself could not believe that the ivory silk color would match her beauty. She went to her walk-in closet to see herself. "I forgot my makeup," she said as she noticed her pale face. She quickly sat in the front of the mirror and started to fix herself very well. Wearing the dress came from her grandpa. And she started to put on light makeup on her face so her true beauty will still be seen. She tied her long hair tightly and put a white flower crown on her head. After a while, she looked in the mirror and found herself beautiful again. "Do I look pretty now?" she asked Harsha, and she quickly get a response. "Definitely yes, Hirre." Hirre turned around and the dress was really made her so beautiful. She looked like an angel that fell from the highest heaven. Moment later, the instrumental music was heard and it was the sign that the event was starting. The people gathered and the armies were still guarding the entire arena. She walked closer to the glass window and she saw how peaceful the coming night. All people, especially the Pack's Alpha and Luna, were here. Every important people gathered and her heart beats fast. She remembered the same succession night, but it was really too far from the things that she experienced before. When she was already prepared, she quickly went to the outside. She relaxed herself as she went downstairs. The atmosphere was different, seemed like there's something pushing her to continue her steps. And from the main entrance, many teenagers were standing, wearing their attractive attire. They were all waiting for their mate. And when Hirre passed by, they were looked at her with admiration, seeing her beauty. Hirre smiled briefly and she continues walking toward the main gate. The security were guiding her toward the event and Hirre did not expect that kind of approach. She looked like a princess when she saw how the eyes of the young people were pulled by her appearance. Whoa! She is so beautiful. Is she the heir of the Vermont? Oh my! Miss Hillary. She is so beautiful. The voices of the people who muttering echoed and Hirre could not expect that many people knew her identity. Oh Hirre! You look so beautiful tonight. And Rossi came and she greeted Hirre. She was wearing her metallic brown dress that exposed her tan color. She was with her guards as she walked with Hillary. Where is my grandpa? And the others? Hirre was wondering as she looked around and she could not see others than the new coming visitors.